Hey everyone. So we have officially made it 3 weeks with our e-learning. So I want to first say, way to go. It's been a long 3 weeks, even longer with the stay at home, but you guys are doing a really good job of keeping up, and I'm just very proud of you. And so keep up the good work. We're going to continue today, and we're going to talk about two very specific lines today. So we're going to keep it short and simple. And today, what we're going to talk about is vertical and horizontal lines. So, real quick, a review: what's a vertical line? And hopefully, we're going up and down. And what's a horizontal line? And for horizontal, you can think like of the horizon. The horizon goes sideways, the horizontal is sideways. So, vertical, up and down, horizontal, sideways. And if you can think of slope guy, the vertical was the nose, and under the nose, it had a slope of undefined. And then horizontal had the slope of 0 at the end of the mouth, right? So we already know the two slopes of those two lines. So really, it's about just kind of understanding them a little more, seeing what they look like. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to start. I'm going to move this because I am currently in the middle of the graph. All right, so vertical and horizontal lines. What we're first going to do is we're going to simply graph them. But if someone gives me a table and it looks like this one right here, if it looks like this one, then I'm going to go ahead and say to myself, 1, 5, -5. That means I go over 1 and down -5. And I put my dot. And then I put my 1, -2, my 1, 0, my 1, 4. And then I can graph my line. And so right there, my vertical line will look like this. If I look back at that table, you will notice a couple things. 1, X is always 1. Number 2 that you'll notice is that Y can be anything you want it to be because the line is indefinite. It never ends. And so as long as X is 1, it lines up on that line. So we can make the assumption that, not the assumption, but we can make the rule that says a vertical line is written in the form X equals A. So if ever I'm given a formula or an equation, it says X equals whatever, then I know right away it's a vertical line. Because if X is always a certain number and Y can be anything, then I know it's a vertical line. So the equation of the vertical line that we just graphed right here is X equals 1. So if someone gives me the equation X equals something, I know it's a vertical line, okay? So then you can kind of guess at what this next one's going to look like. And so if I look here and I'm just graphing, I go -3 and then down 4. And then I go over 1. Oh, I graphed the wrong point there. That should be somewhere else. It should be over 1, -4. And then 2, -4, and 5, -4. Now, it didn't really matter that I graphed the wrong one because I knew right off the bat, I knew Y was always -4. So I knew it was going to be all along that point, but it is important that we do graph the correct points. So just like with a vertical line, a horizontal line, we can make the same rule. And as it says right here, a horizontal line is written in the form Y equals A. And that's because if Y is a certain number and X can be anything, then I know my line is horizontal. And so the equation for this one, well, what does Y have to be? Y has to be -4. So y equals -4 is my horizontal line. So now I have a vertical line and I have a horizontal line. The biggest thing I need to know is a vertical line will have x equals. A horizontal line will have y equals. And so it's really important that we remember those two things because that's going to help us as we go. So again, we're going to remember these two things. Vertical is x equals. Horizontal is y equals. All right, so here we go. Number 1, is it vertical or is it horizontal? I'm hoping you just said vertical to yourself. So if it's vertical, I'm going to have x equals. And that's because x, the line is always falling on where x is a certain number. And so if I look and very closely, and it's very small on my screen, but x equals -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so x equals -4. So there you go. I just wrote my equation for the line. And it's as simple as that. The hard part is remembering vertical is x, horizontal is y. So if I look at this one, number 2, this is a horizontal line. So is this always going to have an x equals or is this always going to have a y equals? And you can think about it this way. Does it ever land on the x-axis? And you're like, no. Does it ever land on the y-axis? Yep. And it lands on the y-axis at 6, +6. So y equals +6. Okay. So for these two, again, we've got a vertical line. So it's going to be x equals, and it looks like it goes over 1, 2. So it's x equals 2. My y goes down 1. So that's y equals -1. So again, we just made our equations. That's kind of the big thing about vertical and horizontal lines. We're going to do a couple more. So if you look here, number 5, I want you to tell me what you think it is. So pause or just shout it out. What's number 5 and what's number 6 going to be? Hopefully hit pause. You figured it out. Number 5 is x equals -8. And number 6 is y equals 0. So this one, I specifically didn't do this one because I wanted to see what you would come up with. You'll notice that the x-axis has a thicker line on it. And because it has a thicker line, the line is actually on the x-axis. So if it is, then y is always at 0. Okay. All right, so graphing vertical and horizontal lines. First of all, I know right away, graphing these lines, I know they're going to be vertical and I know they're going to be horizontal because they all say y equals or they say x equals. And so I always start off because sometimes I confuse the two and I'm like, oh, is this supposed to be a vertical line or is this supposed to be a horizontal line? And I just always have to double check myself because sometimes, as you guys know, when we go too quick, we make mistakes. So better to be safe than sorry. So what I actually do here is I see this y equals -7. So that means I go ahead and on this y-axis, I go to where -7 is. So I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that tells me that my line is going to cross this axis. So I make my line at y equals -7. So I make my line there. That helps me determine if it should go this way or this way. Okay, so for instance, number 8, it says x equals -4. Before I even say it's vertical or horizontal, I figure out that's my x-axis. And then I figure out, I'm going to count over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, so my line is going to go up and down. My line is going to be vertical. And I go ahead and I graph it. If I wanted to put in ordered pairs here, all I would have to do is I would have to make a t-chart, and I would say for number 7, means that I can put anything in for x, and my y is always going to be -7. So if I wanted to do, I could do -2, -7, 0, -7, 1, -7, 5, -7, and I could have those as my ordered pairs. And same thing for x, except x would be all 4s. All right, you go ahead, think about what 9 and number 10 will look like. Will they be vertical or will they be horizontal? You tell me. And number 9, hopefully you said, is going to be vertical at -3. Number 10, I'm hoping you said to yourself, it's going to be horizontal, and it'll be at the +2. Okay, so now I have a couple of questions for you, and I want you to answer them, number 11 through 15. I'm going to ask that you answer them before I go on. So I want you to go ahead, hit pause, answer these questions, whether you just write them down, shout them out, whatever you want to do, but I want you to answer them. So hit pause. Hopefully you paused it, and hopefully you figured them out. So let's talk about this. Slope. You remember slope guy. Slope guy. If we think about slope guy, let's see if I can draw slope guy real quick. He's got a positive I and a negative I, so we show that way. Slope guy has a nose, which is a vertical line, and that vertical line has an undefined slope. And he's got a mouth with a horizontal line, and that has a 0 slope. Slope guy always looks a little different every time. And so we have all of our little slopes. He looks a little sad today, but he's going to make it. So y equals 5. Vertical, horizontal. Hopefully you were thinking horizontal. And so therefore it's a 0 slope. So number 12 gives me x equals -2. That's a vertical line, so it's undefined. The slope of x equals 0 is also a vertical line, so that's undefined. Number 14, y equals -1. That's, it says which axis is, I think I put the wrong answer here. It says which axis is y equals -1 parallel to? I put the slope on accident. That's not what it was asking me for. I was going too quick. Which axis is y equals -1 parallel to? So if I were to graph y equals -1, it would look horizontal. So it is parallel to the x-axis. And so that is the one that it's parallel to. That's actually my answer. This one is not supposed to be there. Okay. So then I have number 15. It says, how does the graph y equals 3 differ from y equals 3x? Well, there's a big difference. Y equals 3 is a vertical or a horizontal line. Y equals 3x is an angled line, right? It's a positive slope, but if I notice if it has a y and an x and it's got a slope, that means that y equals 3 has a 0 slope and y equals 3x has a slope of 3. That's their big difference. So that's it for today. Today we're just talking about vertical, horizontal, their slopes, and making sure that we know the difference between them. If you have any questions, message me, let me know. Otherwise, head on to Schoology and fill out the assignment. Have a good day, guys.